Hello students. First of all, congratulations if you have reached to this video in your quest for knowledge in political science after joining undergrad course. What has been attempted here is basically in the context of Delhi University Pol Science Semester 1 paper to cover a particular topic of democracy and to discuss all the past 3 years questions which in some form or other will again appear in the first semester exam to be held in 2018. But this will also help the Pol Science student all across India in any college because the democracy topic is included everywhere and the questions are very similar. Also, it may help to the civil services exam aspirants who have taken political science as their optional. What has been covered here is 3 years question. It's a guided approach how to write this with detailed note. In fact, you can use the PPT for detailed note and sprinkle it and expand it with your own ideas and modify it whatsoever you can use. I have also tried to give an guide to how to approach towards writing an essay type of question in political science in general, and also the probable way in which this question should be handled, the structure or template also has been discussed. So let's begin this journey. Thank you. By now, you may be aware that in political theory paper, you will be asked 8 questions, out of which you need to attempt only 4 questions. You can notice that out of these 8 questions, 2 are from single topic, that is democracy. So you can understand that if you prepare properly for democracy, you can write half of the paper. Wonderful. So let's see how in last 3 years the topic of democracy have been asked in the first semester paper. 2017 first semester question. The first question was, what are the main arguments in favor and against democracy? A very basic question. The second question was, what are the differences between participatory and representative democracy? The two main form, direct or indirect, you can say. Do you think participatory democracy is possible in contemporary world? Now come to 2016. Again, 2 questions. First was, write and brief essay on the history of democracy. Second is, what is deliberative democracy? Do you think it enriches procedural democracy? Give arguments. In the 2015 first semester question, the first question was, discuss the history of the idea of democracy, which is very similar to 2016 first question, write and brief essay on the history of democracy, very similar. And the second question was, write an essay on the idea of deliberative democracy, which again was very similar to the second question of 2016. So in essence, 2015 and 2016 asked almost similar question. Before we begin the analysis of the 3 years question, let us see how to write essay type answers in social science. It's nothing but an essay you wrote in school days. We first write introduction, which is to introduce the topic, that is here democracy, suppose. Provide definitions, meaning, and overview of topic, of course in your own language. And then the most important thing, you may be surprised that you need to write your conclusion or a glimpse of conclusion, finally what you want to say. Yeah, this is the right way to introduce. You give what you want to say finally. Then in the second portion, which is body, you write theoretical foundation or literature review. What you have read about the authors in this field, what are their views or ideologies or theory. At least 4 or 5 names you need to give in your own words again, no need to reproduce word by word. The third section, which again is a part of body, you analyze and discuss. Here is the crux come. You analyze the topic, issues in view of the question asked, and ideas, theories stated above, and you finally you provide your own view. That is the delta you are adding to the knowledge to the community. That is the crux of your answer. How you perceive this topic as it is asked in the question. And finally, the conclusion. You again paraphrase introduction. Of course, you write in a different way to conclude, state your final view and concluding remarks. That's all. Now let us discuss 2015 first semester question 1, that is discuss the history of the idea of democracy. It was again asked in the form of brief history of idea of democracy. Same thing, idea of democracy, brief history of democracy. It's a long text you can see, and you may feel that why so many points have been written. It is just to help you that you can take it as a note also. So in the introduction part, you should write literal meaning, that is power to people or rule to the people, what democracy mean. This idea originated in ancient Greek, you know, state of Athens. It also found mention in early Buddhist texts in India like Vaisali and Likshui in Bihar. But for next 25 years, both the idea and meaning underwent change, substantial change. You should appreciate and you should write. Today, what we mean by democracy is not the same what it was to be in the Athenian democracy or Likshui democracy. The representative or liberal democracy, I need to say. Different from the original idea of power to people or rule by the people. In the body, you should give all these points, what is jotted here, and your own points. That you should trace the direct democracy in Athens, give some detail, how they, by rotation, almost all the people were occupying office. It was not by election, by lot, and the 2 consecutive terms were not allowed. So most of the people were able to hold office, and that was a kind of direct democracy. Of course, you should write that even then the people or the citizen were only the free men, and many of the part of the real people were excluded from that. But of course, that was a kind of ideal which we are still seeking to achieve as far as democracy is concerned. Then Romans adopted the idea in the form of a republic ruled by Senate. In the modern world, with the Renaissance in England and elsewhere in Europe, Protestant and Reformist movement gained momentum in Western Europe, and they drew inspiration from the idea of democracy. Uh, that was also supported by the liberal thought of individualism, rationality, objectivity. These both were coming together, but democracy was all pervasive kind of moral ground on which most of this movement gained momentum. Then came the French Revolution, which actually spurred the idea of democracy. The liberty, equality, citizen rights were all linked to the idea of democracy. Free America further propelled the idea, but it was not the same as Athenian democracy, but it was tempered by the liberal ideology, which were very strong there. So the liberal democracy, which or representative democracy, which we all see all over, spread across the world, is it germinated in free America under the guidance of the liberal thinkers like Locke. First World War brought radical changes. The idea of equal worth, rights, popular will, common good, etc. gained further momentum. Uh, Thereafter, in the 20th century, communist movement and anti-colonial movement further expanded the idea of democracy from the different from the liberal democracy idea, which was propagated by America. So Marxist view and uh, the different kind of communist democracy, you can say, or social democracy, that kind of thing came into being in the 20th century. Presently, despite seemingly undisputed pervasiveness of liberal democracy all across the world, the idea is still evolving. It is not that it is the final say, but it's evolving. The idea of deliberative democracy, participatory or direct democracy, social democracy, radical democracy, feminist view on democracy, multiculturalism, globalization and democracy, it is all debated hotly, and still the journey continues. The ideal is, of course, to reach to as possible the direct democracy as seen in Athens in even more egalitarian way. Main proponents, you can write Rousseau, who gave the concept of popular sovereignty, Locke, the liberal idea, Macpherson, liberal democracy, J.S. Mill and Bentham gave utilitarianism, and host of others. If you can write their name and some concept, it will help. In conclusion, you should paraphrase the introduction. The original Athenian idea of democracy underwent changes in its form and content in past 25 years. Today, what we mean by democracy, representative liberal democracy, is different from its original idea of popular power or rule of the people. The idea is still evolving and getting tempered or modified by contemporary challenges of social life, globalization, information revolution, feminism, multiculturalism, etc. So this is just a kind of a brief guide of how to approach this question of brief history of idea of democracy. You can expand it, you can sprinkle with your more ideas to make it more elaborate. Now we are discussing a question which came in 2015 first semester, question number 2 on democracy. Write an essay on the idea of deliberative democracy. Uh, I hope you know somewhat what deliberative democracy means. Deliberation is always to discuss in detail pros and cons of any issue and try to arrive to a decision. But deliberative democracy has acquired a new meaning because of the theory of deliberative democracy, which is very similar to what we just told you. So in this, what happens? The essence is that social decision, public policy is by active participation of citizens who form popular or general will by deliberations. What is good for society, they come together, they exchange reasoned arguments. Of course, the citizens should be equal. They should not be under any kind of constraint or any kind of obligation to accept one other's idea. Only by argument one can persuade each other and attain a rational consensus or shared solution. That is deliberation in political science means, or democracy means, instead of decision by aggregation of pre-existing individual preference. Like what Bentham and other utilitarianism says that how the public decision should be arrived. The existing individual preference which is existing, you just sum it up, and all preferences are having equal worth. So if you sum it up, so greatest happiness to greatest number will give you the right choice. So instead of that, deliberation say no. Society's common good or preference is not simple aggregation or mathematical sum of pre-existing individual preference. Rather, it is formed by process of deliberation. So it is deliberation is a transformative or discursive matter where your ideas or your thought, individuals' conception undergo change. It is not that it is rigid and it's just summed up. So it's a very different concept in comparison to the aggregation of individual preference. Deliberations and not mere voting is the source of legitimacy to public decision as per the deliberative theory of democracy. So mere voting is not sufficient for legitimization. Integrates value of popular sovereignty as given by Rousseau and liberal democracy. So it integrates, it enrich liberal democracy, empower and enable people, sense of belonging and contribution to common good. Of course, you can read all what I have written here because it will take a lot of time. Political thinkers are Aristotle, Rousseau, who gave popular sovereignty, Habermas, David Miller, Dyack, Cohen, Rawls, Barnard, Manning, Fiskin. You can some read about what they said and you can sprinkle those ideas to make it more elaborate. The challenges, deliberative democracy, a lot of challenges. Consensus, of course, difficult to achieve in diverse, complex society where deep structural inequalities are there and power relations are well established. Hierarchy is there, like in Indian society. Many say it is impractical, difficult to design and control and to initiate actions, undermine individual liberty. Some liberalists or libertarians say that it's a kind of subjecting individual to change its mind by some kind of coercion, that is intellectual coercion. It's chaotic, undesired, unwarranted outcome. Yeah, many say that. Concern between theory, it's a theory in good, but in practice, it's very difficult to implement. So, disconnect between theory and practice. It blurs the division of labor between citizen and professional politician because the job of decision making should be left to professional politician representatives who are qualified to do that business as per the liberal theory. But citizens are unequipped to do it, so it is mingling of uh, to, to fora which blur the division of labor or specialization, you say. Slow decision making process because it's very time taking. And political thinkers who opposed deliberations are all the liberalists, Marian Young, Lance Sanders, Lippmann, Schumpeter, etc. Okay, so 2017 first semester question now we are taking. What are the differences between participatory and representative democracy? Do you think participatory democracy is possible in contemporary world? As we know, a representative democracy is people elect their representative by voting in periodic election. These representatives and not people in actual, they rule. They form government, take decisions, and implement them on behalf of the people. People generally play passive role in governance. On the other hand, participatory democracy, people actively take part in decision making as active citizens and also in the implementation of the decisions. It's nearer to the concept of direct democracy or the original idea of democracy of popular power. Mode of participation can be deliberation before decision, public debate, local self-government, civil societies, interest group, initiatives, referendum, Gram Sabha, Mohalla Sabha, as attempted in Delhi somewhere, sometime, and recall, protest, demonstration, town hall meeting as in USA and elsewhere. It is. In the next, we have tried to give you the difference point between representative and participative democracy under different difference points like role of the people. Of course, in representative, it is passive onlooker. Here, the people are active participant in participatory democracy. Who actually rule? People's representative, of course, not the people generally. And participatory is still the representative, but people have some say, of course. Spread, if you see, representative democracy has spread to currently almost all nations across the globe. Participatory, it's an enticing idea, but its implementation has been difficult, rare, not because of impossibility in view of the ICT and modern technology, but the politically it has not gained ground. Implementability, of course, representative democracy easier to implement, manage, participatory difficult to that extent. It is not easy to control, manage, and give shape. Examples are most of the liberal democracy world over, including our country, are a form of representative liberal democracy. Participatory democracy, you can draw example from Athens, Lichvi, and other ancient republics in India. Modern times, some form of referendum recall are practiced in Switzerland. The idea of Gandhian Gram Swaraj was participatory. Panchayati Raj concept in India, not of course how it is implemented because it is nothing but representative democracy, democratic concept, but some sort of Gram Sabha and all are in the idea participatory. Political thinker, if you can mention, all liberals like Locke, Mills, Schumpeter, Lippmann, Downs, representative democracy, whereas participatory, the Rousseau with his concept of popular sovereignty, Macpherson, Benjamin Berber, Mansbridge, and many other you can give. Finally, you can say that feasibility in contemporary world. You can reflect upon this with this discussion that it's not easy in large, diverse, complex society, particularly if the society is deeply that has deep established social structure and power relations. Its implementation becomes still more difficult. But technology may help. For example, particularly information communication technology, social media, which has broken all barriers and become a grand forum to participate in debate, social issues. Of course, not for decision making or implementation as such, but nobody stops from using ICT for decision making also. Shall be adopted progressively to fulfill the essential or substantive idea of democracy. No doubt in this that we need to move further and further towards participation of more and more citizens in the governance or governing themselves. In 2017, first semester, the second question was, what are the main arguments in favor and against democracy? Uh, if you see the essential idea or essence of idea of democracy, it was popular power or power to the people. It was based upon equal worth of each person, people's autonomy, able to govern themselves, self-governing, popular will, popular sovereignty, right to be governed, government by concept, of course, a very contested idea. Legitimacy lies with people's choice, participation, deliberation, empowerment. All these are the essential idea of democracy. This has enamored or charmed human civilization in last 25 years. In fact, this has been the whole acceptable idea. Nobody could refute, however, they could oppose it, and it gained ground progressively, and now it has become all pervasive in one form or other. May not be in its real essence or substantive form, but in one form or other. Democracy is the idea who always gain ground and move forward. However, the idea was also opposed by many political thinkers. Now when you have read, you may be surprised that Plato or Aristotle or Socrates and the liberal thinker like Locke and Mills, they all one way or Burke, they all one way or other were very critical of democracy, particularly the direct democracy. Opposition can be categorized into opposition to classic or direct democracy or the essential idea of democracy, and opposition to liberal, procedural, or representative democracy. So in this table, I have tried to give you arguments in favor and argument against, again, two column, direct against arguments against direct democracy and arguments against liberal democracy. So you can read yourself. I may not even tell you the complete. It will take a long time. I hope you will just see and you will note down and you can ex explain it. Some point, if I may say you, of course, direct democracy was opposed. That is mobocracy, tyranny of majority. Plato said public opinion obstruct individual liberty and liberal institutions. Mill said collective mediocrity. Mill said so educated should get more vote. Governance required specialized skill. People lack it. How can they govern themselves? People duties to fill the office, not to direct the office holder, Lippmann said. And liberal democracy are opposed on the ground that it's far away from essence of the idea of democracy. Citizens become passive onlooker, maintain socio-economic equilibrium. The structure are kept intact, and it is a kind of bourgeoisie design, like Marx say, and it's ruled by elites. Many people say elitist theory of democracy. It demeans camaraderie or communitarianism by notion of individualistic, egoist man with the essence of libertarian thought. And representative government and liberal institutions obstruct people's participation in public life. So an argument in favor is very obvious that all these, the essence of the idea of democracy is praiseworthy. Nobody can say that it's not to be adopted. For giving you a brief guide to all these questions, which shall definitely reappear, I have taken help of these references or sources. The two books, one by Bhargava and Acharya, Political Theory, you are aware, and Introduction to Political Theory by O.P. Gova. I have read those chapters on democracy from these books, and the reading list of Due and Democracy is wonderful. It's a part of a book. The main essence is on the original idea of democracy and how this representative democracy is far away from that idea, and how can we reach to the, or how we can come nearer to the original idea. So a series of chapters are devoted on that, and there are plethora of material available on www and YouTube videos. I hope you will just browse all these or many other if you have got time and interest. So students, thank you for watching this video. For further help, you can ping me at duallscience2018help@gmail.com. It is written here. I'll try to answer your query. I will try. Uh, Good wishes, and if I get encouraging response, I shall come back, or otherwise also on all other topics of political theory before November, so that you may get some time to prepare. Good luck.